Well, one of the more interesting stories, if you will, from that early transition from the military to being a civilian was my first interview with Sprint. And I knew that since I'd worked in telecommunications in the Army, that it made sense that I would work in telecommunications or look in that industry. So I had an interview, and again, because I had spent all that time in the military, interviewing was relatively new to me. So I could tell about 20 minutes into the interview that it really wasn't going as well as I wanted it to. And so I just kind of took the situation in my own hands and said, look, I had 7 jobs in 11 years that I was in the Army. I didn't interview for a single one. I got a piece of paper in the mail that said, Lieutenant or Captain, be here in 60 days and figure out how to move your family, your home, you know, all that sort of thing. And so it really became a function or it developed an attitude, if you will, that said, I never really worried about whether I could do the job. The Army never gave me that option. The only thing the Army said is, here's your next assignment, go forth and do great things. But if you're looking for somebody who can step into a situation without a whole lot of background or a whole lot of direction and make something of it, then I'm your guy. Because 30 days later I was working for Sprint. So the beginning of my civilian career, shall we call it, was started at Sprint, and it was really, I could tell early on that the military background was going to work in my favor. I found out very early on that this attitude of I can do it, whatever project is put in front of me, I can do it. It's just a matter of how long it'll take. And as a project manager, of course, that's all you do is work on projects. And so the harder projects, I found others around me that were more senior at Sprint that said, you know, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, or whatever the case may be. I'd raise my hand and said, well, maybe there's some things I don't understand, but my attitude is I can do it, and we'll figure out how that's going to happen. So in short order, I went from project manager to 8.5 years later through a series of progressive promotions to essentially 8.5 years after starting with Sprint. I'm an area vice president managing the Central United States for Sprint Business, over $1 billion in revenue. As an area vice president, Sprint decided to move all of its leadership to Kansas City. Being in Chicago, that would have required another move for my family, so we made the decision that we were going to keep the kids in their current high school, stay until graduation, and so Sprint and I parted company. After working for 2 very large organizations, Sprint and the Army, that I wanted to go work in the entrepreneurial space. But that's where the action is. That's where things are going to happen. With a company that is where I'm managing 2/3 of the people in the company, and you know it's fast growing. You're in some respects you're making it up as you go, and I'm responsible for making sure that operationally it grows the right way, that it grows with a purpose and doesn't lose sight of itself as the business grows, and that included an acquisition which more than quadrupled the size of the business. And you have to know about me is that when you tell me it can't be done, that usually means that I'm going to try to do it. You know, the transition from working for others to creating my own business was born out of my experiences primarily in the last 2 companies, but it really was the culmination of a business plan that started in my head many years ago. When you look at the conditions in which I started RPC Leadership Associates, started it in the middle of the worst recession since the Great Depression. It has grown double-digit growth every year since.